Well, and we are back at the Bowl in Dallas, Texas. We are live at Cpac, and we had some technical difficulties, and because there's so much Wi-Fi going on in this area, that it wasn't the problem that we had to get Wi-Fi connection. It was just our system could not get through it. So we've made some adjustments. Hopefully we'll stay on this time, because coming up is Donald Trump, Donald Trump Jr., excuse me, that you don't want to miss. So let's talk about some of the things that we heard in the first in the first session.
Well, so far we heard about Goya food products. I'm sure you remember that gentleman. He spoke, and it's the anniversary. It's the anniversary of the God cancel culture that happened last year, and so he was saying that we are blessed to have a president in our time to have the courage to respect the life of children. And I think the whole thing that he was trying to convey to us is that we need to get back to that, because that is the generation that's going to lead in the future, and we need to invest in our children. We need to protect our children, and so that was wonderful to hear from him.
Yeah, he quoted Mother Teresa several times, and he said, "Bring the child back to our core and concern and care and concern," and that was an emphasis that he said. He said that he emphasized the fact that you and I have been created for greater things, and that's such an important thing. What a great message. And of course, we heard from Representative Klein, and delivered. What I found interesting was he really focused on delivering votes. The fact that Texas delivered votes for Trump. What did you find?
I just found that there's like a task force that he was talking about, and that we need to make sure that we're putting the effort in getting involved in our local jurisdictions, administration, things of that nature.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that they can hear you. But you know what we forgot to talk about is Dan Patrick.
Yes, that was an amazing speech, because he ended up energizing the crowd to remember, like, we are really the heart of this, that we can make the change, but we need to step up and get involved.
Absolutely, and what I love about him is he really believes that we can keep Texas red, and so I don't know if that's just optimism, but I think the thing about Dan Patrick is he's focused on really bringing the message to everyone, making sure that everyone understands what conservatism is. He's a true conservative, and so I think if we do that, and for those of you who are new to Rockwall County, who are from out of state, you came here for our milk and honey. There's reasons why, and and adding more laws, creating more laws, restricting our liberty is not the way to do it. So I hope that we can keep Texas red, but I just hope that that red isn't more of a pink, which is what we're seeing more and more in Rockwall. So who do you want to talk about? What other? Mike Berry. Yes. Yes.
From First Liberty Reserve.
He's the general counsel for First Liberty.
Yes, and he's a reservist in the Marine Corps, and it was really great to hear from him, because he was talking about the hush thing about the social credit system that's being done in China, and he was talking about that the federal government is actually considering doing that here and weighing in our credit scoring socially, how we are liking things or what things that we are interested in. And so grading us, and so he's concerned about the first rollout that it's affecting our military, and so he's bringing on that he's trying to find a way to get rid of that, and so I'm encouraged to hear that he's actually being a freedom fighter for that.
Well, I agree, and he really does focus on what he came to with a message of is that he's part of a group within the military that is focusing on countering extremist. It's a countering extremist working group is what he described it as. And this group is basically defining extremists as anyone who voted for Donald Trump or people who are on the conservative side. They're not defining, his definition of extremists as people who want to do harm to America by blowing us up, by terrorism, by actual terrorism. And that's not what's happening in the military. He said he's the only member of that group to hold to a conservative point of view and to view those who voted for Trump as not enemies of America, but patriots of America. It's shocking to me that in the military today, we have leadership in the military today that actually looks at at Americans who vote for Donald Trump as enemies. And here is Donald Trump Jr. We're going to let him go. Here he is, so enjoy this.
Wow. How you doing, Cpac? Wanted to start with something. What was Donald Trump right about? Everything. We see that now, right, guys? Right? At what point in time in these morons' minds was, I don't know, the Wuhan lab leak theory not the most plausible argument in the year 2020? Of course it was. No. It didn't originate in the lab that studies the exact virus that has contaminated the world. No way. It happened 2 feet outside that lab. Don't laugh. You're now canceled. Congratulations. By laughing, you would have been thrown off every social media platform. You would have been thrown out of a job in science because, science no longer follows the rules of physics, right? They don't follow math. They follow the narrative dictated by CNN because that is able to manipulate the rules of physics. It's not what I learned in science, but in all fairness, they're pushing the boundaries of what we have all learned in science for the last few years, right? Just ask the male weightlifters in the Olympics, competing against females. Minor details, but what do I know? So, the world is going to hell, right? Have you tried filling up your tank? Right? Don't forget, you did save 16 cents on your entire barbecue. The only problem... No, you did. It's very real. 16 cents for your whole family on the barbecue. The only problem is if you had to get in your car and drive to, I don't know, the end of your driveway. That savings was eaten up and then some. Minor details, right? I mean, because that's how it works. That's the narrative that you're sold, right? It's the Republicans who've obviously been pushing to defund the police, right? Jen Psaki told me so it must be true. Is that true, or did you see it on CNN? Right? So you all know what's going on, right? We're bombing stuff in the Middle East again. We're giving Russia pipelines. We can't have them ourselves. Our energy prices go through the roof. Last week, maybe it was the week before, at the G7, remember? The media came out and they were saying that the proof that Joe Biden hasn't lost it, the proof that he isn't riddled with dementia, was that Vladimir Putin said that he seemed very sharp. Can't make this stuff up, folks. I don't know. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that if it was Donald Trump that Vladimir Putin said that about, it'd be a slightly different response. What do you think, Mercedes? You understand this a little bit, comms, right? Probably a little different. Do you ever think right? He got a pipeline from Russia, for Russia. He's making billions. Is the backbone of NATO. Minor details, we spend 70% of their budget. Right? And that's why it's so awesome to be at something like this. So Matt and Mercedes, thank you so much for putting this together. It's just absolutely awesome to have that. It's great to see it. Texas has always led the charge. Well, till about like a couple months ago, and then Austin sort of took over. Like, I don't know, guys. Like, Texas was leading the charge. You're still top 25. But we got to work on that stuff because those people have lost their minds. Right? The People's Republic of California is wonderful, but honestly, when I look around and I go around the country, I actually see that, right? They've been watching, they've seen what's going on. For a while they believed the narrative because, journalism was an honorable institution. Now they're propagandists. Nothing more, nothing less. You look no further than the last 4 years to watch how they've diminished literally all of their credibility, jumping on every conspiracy. Remember, you got conspiracy theory. They created them, they pushed them, and yet there's no accountability. But today, in 2021, we all know that the difference between a conspiracy theory and the truth is about 6 months. You've seen it play beyond our eyes. What else will Donald Trump have been right about? I have a feeling everything. Because there's a steady stream of nonsense. We saw that, right? Russia, Russia, Russia was the gospel. There are people still talking about that as though it is real. There's no consequence to that, right? Then I guess it was Don Jr. committed treason. Yeah. Yes. That was real forever. They still talk about that one, right? Then Don Jr. perjured himself. Then it was Ukraine, Ukraine, Ukraine. Then it was Fauci's something more than a bureaucrat in a lab coat. Yeah. Fauci is better at pitching baseballs than he is at science, okay? Also true. I want to see them fact check that one. They have no chance. They will try, because it doesn't matter. I mean, the things that I on, you can push it back and say, oh, here's the, oh, okay, we'll take it off. But that's the plan. They ding you enough times, they minimize your reach, they prevent you from being able to get your message out, and that's what we're up against, which is why we do have to band together. Okay? We can't allow it to happen. We need to push back. Ma'am, unfortunately, no, there's a lot of enthusiasm for Joe Biden. He's the most popular president ever. He's significantly more popular than Barack Obama was in 2008, especially in the inner cities, because he has a track record of not being racist. His son definitely didn't drop, let's say, words that I don't even want to use abbreviations for with letters in them. And if you believe that, I've got some waterfront property to sell you in Dallas. Nice oceanfront Dallas property. It's going to be wonderful because I'm a real estate guy. Yeah. And if you really believe that, I have some Donald Trump Jr. artwork that I will be... Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate that lead-in. I wasn't going there, but, you know, why not? I'll do some Don Jr. artwork. I'll put up a nice little piece of paper. Maybe I'll break out my AR. I'll shoot a smiley face into it. You know, because that's probably what's happening, right? How do we get what we want in the Democrat Party? Just buy Hunter's art, right? Now they actually have to watch because, again, the Don Jr. laptop from hell would have been really bad. The Hunter Biden, like, degenerate stuff, the corruption stuff, you know, these would have been stories. For example, what do you think the media reaction would be to Don Jr. smoking Parmesan cheese? I promise you, it wouldn't be what we saw from the media, right? It'd be a little different. And then I say that, and they say, oh, you're making fun of people with addiction. I go, let's just talk about this for a second. I totally understand addiction. It's terrible. We all know people that have suffered from it. It doesn't absolve you from being a total piece of garbage in every other aspect. It doesn't absolve you from selling access to the highest power levels of government. It doesn't absolve you from selling out your country. It doesn't absolve you from, I don't know, child support from the stripper you knocked up a couple years ago, right? Am I right? Yeah. Because I have a feeling if it was me, I would not be absolved. You like that? Okay, good. Hey, we have to have some fun. That's the problem. You know, the conservatives, we've been pretty damn boring for years, right? We can actually have fun and still make our points because all the points are valid. You guys get it. You see it. I opened up for my father last weekend for the 4th of July in Sarasota. And why I know this is real is I saw 45,000 people RSVP for an event. They sat out on a Saturday of their 4th of July holiday weekend, the greatest holiday in America, for like 8 hours in 100-degree heat. You know, heat index, I got to say that because they'll say, no, it was 98, right? I will be canceled. So I have to make sure I caveat and make sure we address this. So it was 98 with like 99.9% humidity. So it was like really damn hot, okay? They sat out there for 8 hours, and then it rained for 3 hours. And I don't mean like drizzle like we're seeing today. I mean like torrential downpour. And I asked our guys, I go, man, I'm gonna get on, and like, I'm gonna be speaking to an empty crowd. They go, no, sir, 137 people went inside to dry off because there was a little concession area, but they're all back in now. I go, we lost 0? 8 hours on a holiday weekend plus 3 hours of rain? Guys, this is a movement. I got on that stage and I was like, wow, it's a pretty good crowd. Let's see what happens. I saw an American flag hanging from a crane about 400 yards behind it. I go, why is it so far out there? But you know, it's Florida. It's like flat like South Texas, right? It's like, there's like 6 inches of elevation change over a 20-mile area, right? So I'm getting up on the stage. I was like, okay, beautiful crowd, incredible bandstands. I'm getting up on the stage. I'm just looking, and it just going. Because these guys get it. They understand what's happening. They're sick of watching their country get taken away. They're sick of a narrative that's anti-American. They're sick of an administration that seems to be working for everyone else other than the taxpayers in America, right? But they've seen it again, right? We talked about it. Defund the police. That was Republicans, right? Oh, great. Media, our media. Oh, that's wonderful. Well, it was Donald Trump's border crisis. Oh, clearly. Clearly, about a week after he left office, and you rolled out the welcome wagon. We're going to give you free health care. We're going to give you free education. You can take American jobs. You can come with COVID. It doesn't matter. We're going to shut you down from going to church, from going to school, from opening your business. But if you're illegal and you come here with COVID, we'll release you into the public. Go have fun. Have at it. But it was Donald Trump, and everyone, oh, yes, lovely. That's wonderful. This is what we're up against. They're lying to you about everything, right? When I wrote liberal privilege last summer, that was my thesis. All the things. Joe Biden's not going to be a moderate. Check. Joe Biden's not against energy. Really? Check. What else are they lying to you about, guys? Yeah. Joe Biden's not going to be against the Second Amendment, right? You don't need your fully semi-automatic 40-shot clip mag, right? Because Joe Biden knows what the hell he's talking about. I love my fully semi-automatics. There's no such thing, folks, but they don't know that. I love my AR-14. You can't make this crap up. Guess what, guys? They're lying to you again about being moderate on the Second Amendment, right? Look at Chipman. They want to appoint the leader of the ATF, or the AFT, as Joe Biden would call it, because he can't remember. Right? They want to appoint a guy that worked actively for the anti-gun lobby to lead the ATF, to infringe on your Second Amendment rights. So I want all of you guys to call your senators, okay, and make sure that this guy doesn't get confirmed. Okay? I want you to speak to your senators in perhaps purple states, where you have Democratic senators that claim to be for the Second Amendment, like Manchin, like Tester, and ask them, are they going to nominate someone that says they're going to take your guns away, your AR-15? Even standard capacity mags would be illegal. Ask those guys, because they talk about being for the Second Amendment. Their constituency is for the Second Amendment. But you can't be on both sides of this one, guys. You're going to have to make up your mind. They told the American public that Joe Biden was going to be a moderate for 9 months. Some people believed it because they hadn't seen what we've all seen. You know, they were busy trying to feed their families, put food on the table, raise their kids with great values, consume a couple minutes of news a day, maybe in the background. They thought maybe, just maybe, he'll be the moderate. The media was happy to sell that narrative because they knew they could manipulate it. They'd get what they wanted out of it. We all now know that that's a lie. So we have to hold them accountable. So guys, stay in the fight, stay in the game, make sure you're involved. Make sure you have those conversations with your friends. Don't let this one slide. I mean, the Democrats are doing it, they're making it easy for us, folks. Right? Incompetent decision after incompetent decision. Fake soundbite after fake soundbite. Fake photo op after fake photo op, right? I mean, has Joe Biden done anything that didn't involve an ice cream parlor? No, seriously, I'm sitting there. It's like my toddler. Like, Joe, if you get the line right, you get a scoop of ice cream. Maybe even 2 scoops. Because we remember how big a deal 2 scoops was, right? But, you know, Joe can't get through the line anyway. They give him the ice cream because, like, you know, it's like corporal punishment. It's like, come on. Anyway. So, guys, we need you in this with us. We need you there. And, again, Texas sees it more clear than anyone, right? The humanitarian crisis going on at the border is a disgrace. Right? I know they're trying to blame it on Donald Trump, and Kamala Harris does a nice photo op 900 miles away in El Paso to make sure she can be clear of any of the cages that who built? Again, narrative. You see a pattern here, folks. So stay with it. I just want to thank you guys for all of the support. Honestly, it means the world to us. We're truly appreciative, and we will continue to be in this fight as long as you guys do. All right? Contrary to popular belief, as a real estate developer from New York, it's not popular to be pro-2A, to be pro-conservative, but it doesn't matter because our country is worth fighting for. Our children is worth fighting for. Our freedoms are worth fighting for. So get out there and fight for them. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Thank you for the leader. You know, hey, I make this stuff up as I go, and we have some fun. Thank you, guys.
To say that was a rousing speech would be a tremendous understatement for sure. And I am I thought that was an outstanding speech by Donald Trump Jr., who basically has demonstrated
inundated with lies and with propaganda.
My roommate that I had in college, she said, "Oh, I'm a communist." 70% would vote for socialist.
Would you choose socialism?
Yeah, I would choose it for sure.
They demonize capitalism while they're drinking their Starbucks.
The so-called Democratic Party does not have room for independent thinking black Americans like me.
Today, we truly embark on an agenda of economic, social, and racial justice in the United States of America.
We need a revolution in order to overthrow this system.
One day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for another Power Play. Please welcome former Texas Supreme Court Justice, Eva Guzman.
Bienvenidos, Cpac. Welcome to Texas, where Republicans elected the first Latina, not Latinx, to statewide office. I'm Eva Guzman, and I'm that Republican Latina. What a treat it is to follow Donald Trump Jr. I say we make him an honorary Texan. He's an avid sportsman, a competitive shooter, and we know he loves Texas, where we share his passion for the outdoors, for freedom, and for the Second Amendment. As a former Texas Supreme Court judge, I stepped down from the court on June the 11th, and the wife of a veteran police officer. I know the importance of safeguarding our Second Amendment and protecting the rule of law. And I know firsthand the vital role that law enforcement plays in our community's safety. Back the blue is not the slogan of the day for me, it's my way of life. Without a well-funded police force, crime surges, and our communities suffer. Our concerns about rising crime are magnified when you look at what's going on in the southern border. The tidal wave of immigrants, illegal immigrants, is flooding our southern border. It's overwhelming our infrastructure, threatening our national security, and wreaking havoc on the safety of our community. The number of criminal crossings have soared out of control, and the cartels are loving it. As of May, there had been over 270,000 encounters at the Rio Grande Valley. If you compare that when President Trump was in office, that's a 172% increase. Let that sink in, 172%. And despite these eye-popping statistics that tell the story of a failed border policy, some people still want to paint the picture. This is about good people fleeing bad circumstances. It's not that simple. It's an issue of law and order, national security and safety. I think you'll agree with me that America is a compassionate and generous country, that we want to share the blessings of America with those who share our values and respect our laws. I know this because I come from a family of immigrants. My parents were legal immigrants. They had grade school educations and put 7 kids through college. They taught their children God-honoring values, respect for life, service, gratitude, sacrifice, discipline, and they treasured their American citizenship. When people come to the U.S. legally, they have a real appreciation for the rule of law, and they want to see a secure border too. A friend described what's going on with the current leadership. You know, President Biden and Kamala haven't come to South Texas yet. When they do, they'll see the disastrous effect of their border policies. But a friend said, no show Biden, and Kamala don't care. That's how she described them. And I can understand my friend's frustration. Americans of every stripe understand the power of action and the danger of inaction. So what do? It's time to sue the federal government and stop them from forcing our communities to take on illegal immigrants, housing, education, support. It's time to sue the federal government and make sure that our Border Patrol officers have adequate resources, that they're not taken from the border to transport illegal immigrants to, for example, Pecos, Texas. And it's time to hold the federal government accountable. At a minimum, we need to make sure the federal government enforces existing laws. I've been a lawyer and I've been a judge. For 3 decades, I've defended the rule of law. I spent 22 years in the judiciary, over half of that time on the Texas Supreme Court. I've decided thousands of cases. I've resolved the most complex questions of constitutional law. I've been dubbed a trailblazer, a pioneer, a pathfinder, and I've been inducted into the Texas Leadership Hall of Fame. Now I want to put my conservative vision, my legal know-how, and my hard-earned experience to work for Texas as your next Attorney General. Please visit evaguzman.com. Come by my booth. I'm so honored to be here to win the battle for the future. We, the people, and the Party of Action must show up, stand up, and speak up for the vision and the values that unite us. That's our mission, and that's our battlefield. Let's do it together. Thank you, Cpac.
Please welcome, from Alabama, Congressman Mo Brooks.
Good afternoon. Way to go, Cpac. You are America's future. Let me emphasize something. I make no apologies. I am proud to be an American. And I'm proud that my country, your country, is the greatest nation in world history, and we should never apologize for that. Think about it for a moment. That's just not a matter of opinion. That's backed up by empirical evidence. No nation in world history has been able to generate the kind of wealth that we Americans have been able to generate for our people. No nation in world history has had the military capability, the national security that we enjoy right now. No nation in world history has had the ability given to its citizens to control the destiny of their own country like we have in the United States of America. And no nation in history has enjoyed the kinds of liberties and freedoms that we have enjoyed. Now, do you agree with me? That's something to be proud of. But let me confess, as I stand here today, I have never felt such fear for the future of our country, the nation that we know and love. Why? Because dictatorial socialists want to cancel America. We have to fight back to protect our country's greatness. They are attacking the foundational principles that have combined to give us the greatest nation in world history, to give us who we are. They attack our republic by engaging in unparalleled voter fraud and election theft activities. They attack our First Amendment freedom of speech with censorship from big tech, with the cancel culture, with speech suppression by government activities. They attack freedom of religion. Their view of religion is you can worship in church, but once you open those doors and exit, you can no longer have your religious values. That is not freedom of religion. You have the right to live your religion 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but that's not what the dictatorial socialists are insisting, and that's not how they're changing America. They want to deny us our Second Amendment right to bear arms, the amendment that is designed to protect everything else that's in the United States Constitution. And these dictatorial socialists want to cancel that Second Amendment. They want to get rid of free enterprise and replace it with socialism. Free enterprise has given us the wealth that we enjoy. Socialism has never worked as an economic model in any nation that has ever tried it if the definition of working is an adequate safety net coupled with a national defense capability necessary to preserve that nation. Now, our choice is simple. We can surrender and submit, or we can fight back as our ancestors have done. Think for a moment about our ancestors who fought at Valley Forge. They didn't fight the British, they fought for survival. 12,000 Continental soldiers arrived. 5-6 months later, 2,000 had died. Think about what they went through. Burying your brothers, your fathers, your sons, 10 to 15 a day, every day for 6 months. That's the kind of sacrifice that we have to think about. And I ask you, are you willing to fight for America? Are you willing to fight for America? Well, the choice is simple. This is how you fight for America. This is what America needs you to do. And you, as members of Cpac, being here today, you're the core. You're the ones that have to be the Energizer Bunny and get our people excited again to do what is necessary to protect our great nation. We have to explain to people that the sacrifice is simple. You sacrifice your time, you sacrifice your money for candidates that you believe in that'll do the right thing for your country. And better yet, if you can't find a candidate who understands the foundational principles that have combined to make us a great nation, you run yourself. You run yourself. You run at the city level, at the county level, at the state level, at the federal level. We need patriots at every level of government. So my final question to you is very, very simple. Is America worth fighting for? Is America worth fighting for? Then I implore you, do it! Do it! Do it! God bless America, and thank you for doing what you do.
Please welcome, from North Carolina, Congressman Ted Budd.
Well, in August of 1991, 30 years ago this summer, as a 19-year-old, I stood in Red Square in Moscow, in the Soviet Union. I was on a Christian mission trip, and we were sharing the good news of our Savior, Jesus Christ. It was there that I witnessed people living under the tyranny of a totalitarian regime. Individual rights were trampled, and the Soviet citizens that we met, they were desperate for the hope that freedom could provide. Now, while I was there, two amazing things happened. One, I met a girl from West Virginia. Her name was Amy Kate, and she would later become my wife. Absolutely. And two, the Soviet Union began to collapse that very week. And 3 decades later, as Amy Kate and I were praying over my decision to run for the U.S. Senate, one of our key motivations was that so many of our leaders are now wanting to give away our freedoms. And now, as we travel around North Carolina campaigning, I hear over and over again, Ted, I'm afraid that we're losing the greatest country on earth. What are we going to do? Well, first, we have to win. And I mean we, because all of us have a stake in this, right? Don't we all have a stake in this? Well, the other team has the media elite on their side, but we have you on our side. And we're going to need the freedom-loving people in this room to let as many folks as possible know that you support freedom-loving candidates. And finally, message matters. We don't need career politicians who delete their message and cave to a woke mob that's just bent on canceling us. We need to choose men and women who believe in the America First agenda that President Trump is still fighting for. Because we believe that it should be easy to vote and hard to cheat. We believe that freedom of speech needs to be protected and not canceled. And we believe that our country should have borders and that they need to be secure. And we believe in safe streets and in backing our police. And we believe that our kids should be taught to love our country and not to hate it. You know, if the worst thing that Democrats can say about us is that we love our country, that we support law enforcement, that we support free speech, that we're for supporting counting legal votes, well, I'll take those accusations every single time, and I bet you will too. Now, you all know that I'm from North Carolina, but Amy Kate and I, we have some Texas roots. See, we studied, God bless Texas. You see, we studied just down the road at Dallas Theological Seminary, and while there, we learned what our founding fathers knew a long time ago, that rights don't come from man, they don't come from government, but they come from God, our Creator. In the Psalms, King David asked, if the foundations are destroyed, what can the righteous do? He continues on declaring that the Lord is in his holy temple. The Lord's throne is in heaven. His eyes see and they test the children of man. Well, our foundations are being destroyed, aren't they? And we're being tested, for sure, for sure. It's as if God is asking us, will we turn to him to save us as a people and ultimately save us as a nation? Now, he's fully capable of saving us, but we must humble ourselves. We must turn to him and ask him for mercy and for his help. See, God has given us a challenge, but he's also given us a blessing because we're Americans. And because of that blessing, we have a voice and we have a vote. So I want to humbly ask you to be grateful for that blessing, to turn to Him, to embrace our national challenge at this moment, and to make sure that your voice, all of our voices, they're heard from now all the way through Election Day. So thank you. May God bless you, and may God truly, truly bless America.
Welcome to the 4th Annual Japan Conservative Union Conference.
Will Republicans bring the nation back together?
We have to start investing long-term in communities that have habitually been Democrat.
What the RNC is doing is making sure that the root system that's necessary for real success is there, not for election cycles, but permanently.
Rebuilding the party and ensuring that we're in a strong position to win, and you've done that at the national level.
Our partnership with the RNC is so important to the success in what we've done.
Republican National Committee announced today the party has deployed teams into 4 states.
We're going to continue to fight to make sure that every legal vote is counted, but that we're preventing cheating. Republicans have led better through this pandemic. That is a stark contrast that I think Americans are recognizing as we head into the 2022 midterm.
We are a party of diversity. We are a party for every American.
And we have a lot of hard work to do, and I am not going to let socialism rule in this country, and I'm going to work with every single one of you to make sure we squash it, we take back the House, and we take back the Senate in 2022.
Ladies and gentlemen, can cancel culture be canceled? Please welcome former chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors, Kevin Hassett. Former acting secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Chad Wolf. And your moderator, chairman of the American Conservative Union, Matt Schlapp.
All right. Has anybody here been canceled? You know, there's a certain lawsuit you can sign on to. I don't know if you know this. You can go to our website at conservative.org or go to the FP1 website. And what's going to happen Saturday night is the lead lawyer on this lawsuit, which don't believe the fake news on the lawsuit. It's a real lawsuit. It's well thought out. And the people running the lawsuit, including the chief lawyer who will be here at our dinner on Saturday night, will give you a briefing. And people are adding their names to the lawsuit at all times. But this panel is about these two gentlemen who had very important jobs in the Trump administration. Kevin was at the White House. Obviously, Chad was at the Department of Homeland Security, where you solved a pretty tough problem.
Well, we sure did, and now they have successfully fouled that up in historic ways.
In record time, they fouled it.
They certainly have.
But I want Kevin first. Kevin, you've worked around White Houses and around Washington for a long time. What is this cancel culture thing that's going around, this cancer?
Yeah, you know, cancel culture is something that I've thought a lot about because I've watched people try to cancel pretty much everybody that worked for President Trump, including people who would come to work for me or for Chad, and then, you know, you feel loyal to people who are willing to serve with you, and then the cancel folks go after that. And after studying them a lot, what I decided is that what they're really about is not necessarily canceling just people, but they want to cancel ideas. And so what'll happen will be that you'll actually think an idea that's true, but uncomfortable for them. Like, for example, here's an idea. Did you actually know that President Trump's economy was one of the best ever? Did you know that
we know.
Yeah, that African-American wages grew more under President Trump than for any other president, that income inequality declined. The truth is that the economy boomed under President Trump because of his policies, and that's an uncomfortable truth for them. And so then they basically don't want to have a debate about it. They want to cancel people who speak uncomfortable truths. And so, you know, you might ask the question, should we look into whether there's election fraud? There's always, you know, there always could be election fraud. But rather than say, well, let's investigate it, and, you know, we think we won fair and square, so we'll prove to you that there wasn't election fraud, they just try to cancel the conversation. And so my view is that if they're canceling you, if they're canceling your thoughts, they're trying to cancel your ideas, and if they're threatened by them enough that they want to cancel them, then they're probably true.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And that's what Don Jr. was just saying. Every time they said it was wrong, wait 6 months and you'll find out it's right.
Yeah.
So Chad, cancel culture is an idea. It's an idea that comes from defense. You don't have the right ideas. So you say things that aren't true to put the person that is pushing the truth off guard or off the scent. But it's also personal, and you've witnessed this. We live in the same neighborhood around whatever we call it these days. It was called the Swamp, probably should be. And what we've increasingly seen as a Democratic Party that's embraced these extreme ideas, part of these extreme ideas is that if you have our ideas, we're not worthy of common decency and respect.
So I like to say that the left and the Democrats are all about diversity of thought as long as you agree with them. And if you don't, then they will come after you in very personal ways and try to cancel you, and I think we know what that's about. And so as Matt said, you know, they show up and, again, I'm acting secretary, just doing my job, securing the border, fixing the immigration system, which has been really broken for an extended period of time. So what do? They show up outside of my house, protesting every week. I've got two sons, two boys. They would shout their names out in front of our house. Now, luckily, I had Secret Service, so they took care of that. But they would come after us. They would come after us in restaurants. Repeatedly, as a family, we're sitting down to have dinner on the weekends. Usually, it's about the only time I saw them. And my head was always on a swivel of who's coming in, who's going to recognize us and cancel it. But to go back to Kevin's point, I think it's interesting because obviously border security and immigration was an issue that President Trump really grabbed hold of, and he said, let's fix it. And I served President Bush and other administrations, you know, wanted nothing to do with the issue because it's difficult and it's hard, and you're going to make some people upset. But President Trump understood that the system is completely broken, and he jumped in, and he had us jump in, and we had real solutions and real answers to a very difficult question that they didn't like. They didn't like the fact that we were fixing fraud and abuse in the immigration system, that we were bringing some normality and some process back to border security, because it hadn't been that way in years and years and years. And when they didn't like it, instead of fighting it with ideas or alternatives, they just go to cancel. They just go to personal attacks, because that's all they have at the end of the day. And so as Matt said, I witnessed that firsthand. I thought about some very ingenious things to do out front of my house, but I didn't do it. But Matt, on the other hand, did a great thing. So why don't you tell him?
Tell him myself?
Oh, yeah.
So we decided that we wouldn't put any Trump signs in front of our house because we just thought, well, we say enough things that maybe cause my kids to be embarrassed about their parents, so maybe we just won't do that. And eventually, we had a debate watching party. Maybe some of you were there. And we put a Trump flag out, but it looked like a sign on our front yard. And next thing you know, we had a lot of knocks on the doors from the police, from the mayor's office, from city inspectors. And I was at work, and the kids would say, hey, another guy came in with a badge and this. There's something's wrong with your sign, Dad. Something's wrong with your sign. I hadn't had time to take it down. And so then I kind of, as I said earlier, I got kind of upset. And I thought, why are they harassing my children over a sign? I thought in America you were allowed to have political signs. And I talked to the city official, and he said, your sign is too big, you have to take it down. Now, there are Biden signs the size of that flag all over my neighborhood. You know the neighborhood.
My next door neighbor had one that size.
Yeah, and so I was like, how is my sign too big and the bigger signs are not too big? I'm not that smart, but I'm smart enough to figure that is not logical. And he said, the reason why your sign is too big is because we're getting a lot of complaints about it. We've had no complaints about the Biden signs. He said, if you would like to lodge against those with the Biden signs, we can take him down. Well, wait. I couldn't do it. I could care less how big the sign is in your yard. I really just couldn't make myself do it. But my ingenious older daughter came to me and she said, Dad, tell them the sign is a flag, not a sign. I bet there's no limit on the size of flags, because you see these big flags at car dealerships and stuff. So I was like, what if my sign's a flag? He goes, then you can keep it up. So I decided to take that flag and put it up 40 feet on a lift. For the remainder.
Good. And so, again, we live in the same neighborhood, and so you have all these listservs and emails going around, and I start seeing, people are complaining over email about this flag flying. It's above your house at this point.
It's pretty high.
It's high and above his house. I just said, this is great. This is fantastic.
Well, we all push back in little ways. But, Kevin, back to this idea of things that get canceled. I think it's hurtful for people. It's certainly hurtful for the students who are here, the high school students and the college students who are here, to have to be treated pretty roughly just to have ideas. As I said, you've worked for a lot of administrations, been around Washington a lot. They believe Trump caused this because he was so outlandish. He didn't lose, right? You were the same one who said it earlier. You got a standing ovation. Kevin, is this because of Trump, or is this more of the canceling of ideas by blaming him?
Right, well, President Trump was willing to say the obvious truth that you're not supposed to utter. And the fact is that when he pushes through policies that are great for blue-collar workers, that bring jobs back to America, that disproportionately benefit minorities, when he pursues policies like opportunity zones, which brought billions and billions of dollars of capital to the poorest communities in the country, prison reform that took nonviolent offenders and released them from prison, and that disproportionately benefited African Americans. He actually forgave emergency debt for the historically black colleges. When he outperforms President Obama, then the only thing, they can't argue with the facts. If you look at the success, you remember when we were pushing the tax cuts, we said that the wages would go up by $4,000? We were wrong. It actually was $6,000. It was actually $6,000.
Yeah.
And so the policies worked, and they can't stand it. And so what they have to do is they have to stop debate. And what they do is they push things that don't make any sense at all if you actually look at them. So they tell you that the only people that should be allowed to have a gun are cops. But cops are racist murderers, right? I mean, they say that the Keystone pipeline, that we got to shut it down, but we got to get up as fast as we can the Russians' pipeline to Western Europe that lets Russia control Europe. They say that we got to stop drilling oil everywhere in the U.S., and now all of a sudden the price of oil is way up, and they're begging Russia and OPEC to increase their production to get the prices back down. They're doing stuff that just makes absolutely no economic sense at all. And so they don't want to get up on a stage and debate one of us about the value of their ideas. What they want to do is they want to send bullies to our houses to scare us into shutting up. And we're just not going to do it. We're just not going to do it.
I'll piggyback on that a little bit, because as my time at the department, we would talk about a variety of different homeland security issues, and border and immigration were certainly at the top of that list, but we would talk about making sure that the policies that we were putting in place benefited Americans first. And that is also something that the left and the Democrats hate to hear. And I can't figure it out, and they want you to apologize for that. And I don't think that we should ever be in a position, as government officials, our first and foremost job is to make sure that American citizens are safe and secure, and that our policies benefit them first. And we would talk about that, and the hate mail I would get because I was racist or whatever the term that they were using at the time, but they want to cancel you. They want you to stop talking about the truth. And I certainly did that as secretary, and have done that since leaving government, and will continue to do it because it happens to be the truth. And I used to tell my staff at the department, when the facts are on your side and the truth's on your side, you can talk all day about this. And that's where we're at this point. I do.
Let's shift focus a little bit here, because it's my view that, and we've talked about this, that when Democrats gain the White House and the majorities in the House and in the Senate, they really use their power. The first thing they do is they implement what they said they were going to do. They really do. I give them credit for that. Republicans don't always do that as aggressively. But the second thing they do, which I don't respect, and I think is criminal, is to use their power to go after their opponents. We've already seen, their political opponents, we've already seen another IRS abuse where a nonprofit set up to preach biblical principles was denied tax-exempt status because of some kind of extreme views. We've already seen this question of a major reporter being unmasked in all of the ridiculousness, the steps they take to use an intelligence infrastructure, which is supposed to be used to go after foreign adversaries, and it can be turned on a political opponent domestically. They use this power. You've seen this. Why is it so asymmetrical and just totally accepted as the way it is?
Well, I saw it from my perspective. They get a pass, and the pass is from the media. Everything that we did under Trump was under a microscope, and it would be a front page story for 4 days. The same thing occurs today, and it's a blip for 30 minutes, and then so they don't have to defend it, they don't have to apologize, they don't have to change their court, and so it incentivizes them to keep doing it. And it's that scrutiny. So it's it's groups like Cpac and others where we have to hold them accountable. And I think that's critically important in today's environment, where they get a pass on half the things they're doing. I see it, very vividly at the Department of Homeland Security and what they're doing on the border, and just destroying what we built over 4 years, and no one's holding them accountable except for a few conservative groups.
Matt, could I add one thing too about like who's being bullied, who's being canceled? One thing that people talk a lot about is it seems like our country is getting further and further apart, and it clearly is, especially if you look at like the current agenda of the Democratic administration. But I think one of the main causes of that is not just that these guys target and bully Republicans who disagree with them, but they target and bully Democrats that disagree. I mean, and so if you're basically a Democrat, if you look at the couple of courageous Democrats in the Senate that have stood up and on principle and said, no, wait, this is the history of the Senate, they're getting it worse than any of us ever got it. And so I think that what we need to do is start to call the bullies bullies. And it's everybody's responsibility to stand up to the bullies. Yeah. And Joe Biden needs to stand up to the bullies too. Because there are a lot of, I had the honor of being the 29th chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors. I was thrilled when President Trump asked me to do that. And there, in Democratic and Republican administrations, there are economists that serve the White House honorably and well. They're good people, and a lot of folks are watching, I think, pretty economically illiterate policies pushed through right now and not talking. And they're not talking because they don't want to get the backlash that we all have to live through. And I think that if we stand up to the bullies and call them out for being bullies, that's how you cancel culture, right? You just say, no, it's not about this. It's not about that idea that you're talking about. It's about you being a bully. And if you don't like what I said, then explain why I'm wrong. Don't shut me off the internet.
Right. What's the best way to stop a bully?
is to stand up to the punch. No, I'm not going to say a violent thing.
You know, metaphysically, metaphorically, punch him in the nose. You've got to tell a bully, right, that you're not going to take it.
And the point is, and this is the thing that each and every one of us can do. And you know, I gave you a couple of examples of things that they sort of tell you are true, but when you think about it, it's like, wait a minute, that can't possibly be true. Just do that yourself. And then what happens is that these people are bullies, get exposed for basically thinking things that are utterly irrational. And I suppose that if you go to an Ivy League school now, and instead of studying like a real class, you take critical theory, then you end up thinking that, you know, it's a good idea to shut down oil in the U.S. and then beg the Russians to make more oil. Okay, but maybe that's what you learn at Harvard these days. Okay, but the fact is that if you go out there and you expose the idiocy of a statement like that, or finding yourself in a position like that, it's pretty embarrassing for them. And so I think that it's basically be courageous enough to stand up to the bullies, and then look at what they're saying. And just because there are people that are bullies doesn't mean they're always wrong. Sometimes they'll be right. It could happen. And when they are, you should acknowledge that too.
Would either of you serve in a future Republican administration again?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Do you need a drink to answer that question?
I do. You know, with some time, and the answer is probably yes. It was very difficult over the last 4 years.
Good for you.
But as I tell my kids, you know, again, I've got a 14 and 13-year-old. I didn't serve in the military. I just didn't come from that type of family. But I always knew I wanted to give back. And so when I got the chance to, under President Bush and certainly under President Trump, I jumped at it. And so if the opportunity came again, I'd certainly do that.
Dr. Hassett.
Dr. Hassett, you know, I come from a family, not me, but my family that served honorably in the military. My Uncle Bern was in the 17th Airborne Division in World War II. His first deployment was reinforcing Bastogne, and when the crossroads that the 513th was told to take basically ended up being held by armor, and they're paratroopers with rifles. They ran out of ammo, and then they said, well, you know, we're Americans. We got told to take that village, and so they decided to bayonet charge the village, and they took it. And 2 guys in the 513th got medals of honor for that. You know, my Uncle Bern was that, and he never talked about it, right? You guys all know, those of you who are military families, nobody ever tells you the stories. You got to read them on the internet. But I'm not, you know, I'm in there in the White House, and people are doing this kind of stuff to us, and I'm kind of thinking, like, if Uncle Bern can bayonet charge German armor, then I can stand up to the bullies for my country.
Yeah.
The last thing is that you might have noticed that so I started in politics as the main policy advisor in 2000 for John McCain, and John and I were very close friends, and the president and John had times when they didn't seem to really get along.
I didn't really notice that.
You might have noticed that. But I went in when the president offered me the job to talk to John about it, and I knew that he already was having some trouble with the president. I said, do you think I should go work for President Trump? I don't really know the guy that well. And he was like, yes, absolutely. And it wasn't because he thought I was going to be like a discipline on Trump's bad ideas or anything like that. He said it's because serving your country is the best thing a person can do. Yeah. You've never been able to do it, and it's going to change your life because it's going to be the most wonderful experience you're ever going to have. That's what John McCain said to me. Yeah. And then last thought is that when they debated my confirmation, it's kind of fun to watch the senators talk about you on the floor and the Democrats.
Is that fun, Chad? Do you enjoy that?
Yeah, it's real great.
Yeah, it's
fantastic.
So Elizabeth Warren said on the floor that I'm a tool of Goldman Sachs, and I was thinking, I wish if I were, I'd have a lot more money than I do. I don't think they ever gave me any money. But the point is, John McCain said the only time he ever doubted my intelligence was when I agreed to work for him.
That's
and great. I think, you know, that if I could work for John and for President Trump, then I'll work for President Schlapp too if he offers.
Oh yeah. That's a whole other panel. So
I meant Mercedes, by the way.
That's right. Yeah. That would make. Now we have this question: is you would serve again? But we talked about the neighborhood we live in, how much it's changed. D.C. was always a Democrat town, but now you could survive as a Republican and have a lot of friends, and it'd be fine, civilized. That seems to be gone. I have a theory. If the people of Washington, D.C. want to be a state, I think we should give them a choice. You can be a state, but then you can't be the capital anymore. If you want to be the capital, you're a neutral party amongst the states. The other kind of crazy idea I have is Washington, D.C. was picked because it was the center of what was then this United States. It's no longer Omaha, there we go. I'm thinking I'm from Wichita. I can think of some other places.
So I grew up north of Dallas, so I would pick Texas.
There you go.
But not Austin.
Not Austin.
Not Austin. North Texas.
By the way, Austin could be weirder than Washington, D.C. It's really true.
It's a close second.
What do you think about these ideas, Kevin? Are they crazy?
So you're not supposed to ask math geeks questions like that, but I think that if we actually modeled it, the optimal answer is that we should randomize and pick a new capital every 5 years or something like that. Because the capital gets so corrupt, right? The deep state gets to dig in, and so let's make them all move every few years. It's probably, anyway, sorry I had to answer as an economist.
So if we have an optimistic view, which I do, which I think we have a really good chance to take back the White House in 2024.
Yeah.
It's easy for Democrats to populate their administrations and populate the White House. Republicans hardly ever knock anybody back in the confirmation process, maybe an extreme person here or there. For Republicans, it's really a death sport. You all have experienced this. Isn't it going to get to the point where a lot of people in red America don't want to leave red America to go through that? And how do we solve this problem? Because it's, once again, it's asymmetrical. It's a blast. I mean, Mercy and I said a million times, we know all these powerful people in government. It should be fun. Should be some great parties along the way. It wasn't like that over the 4 years. It was a lot of heartbreak and a different experience. I'm not complaining. But how do we solve this?
I think it's tough. I think there's a lot of people, not in D.C. that want to make a difference in government. I think, as I look back on my service, though, you get to a point where the other side is just so outlandish in some of their actions or their words that at this point, I don't even care. There's so much hate. You just continue, you have your moral compass, you know what's right, and you talk about it because that's what's good for the American people. And the media and the left, I think they believe in what they say, but they represent a very small amount of reasonable Americans. And so you gotta stick with it. I think it's still possible to get people, Republicans into government, but it's probably tougher these days than it was a decade ago.
Yeah, I think that the fact is that, whenever you're going through Senate confirmation, there are a million things that could go wrong, and it's hard to convince people to do that. But what I always tried, that Larry Kudlow and first Gary Cohn and I and Stephen Mnuchin were, in charge of recruiting all the economic officials for President Trump. And, if we brought a bad candidate into the Oval Office, you saw him on The Apprentice. You could imagine how bad it could get for that guy. So we worked really hard on it, but recruiting people, one of the things the president looked for, and you know this about him, is he wants people who are enthusiastic about the job.
Yeah.
He's not reluctant to do it. And we found lots of those people, and I think it was because of what John McCain said to me, that there are a lot of people that are called to serve, and that's why America is such a great country, and so I think it's not a problem at all. There are going to be people who don't come because they're worried they're going to get canceled, but we don't want those people. We want the people who will stand up to the bullies and are courageous enough and want to serve their country, and there's zillions of people in this country that want to serve.
Yeah.
That's right. So, your kids are a little older, teenagers.
Yep.
I got a range. They're all here, or all the older ones are here. You'll see them walking around. It's true at all these events, about 50% are high school and college kids, as I said. What's your message to them?
I think it's, look at these tough issues of the day, public policy issues, and come to the conclusion on your own. Don't read the CNNs, the MSNBCs, or whatever your professors are telling you and take it as truth. Do your own research, talk to your your shadow counsel or the people that you trust, and develop your own thoughts at the end of the day. And I went to school just up the road here in Dallas, and we got a little bit of that. But as I look back, I had some very liberal professors who wanted to indoctrinate us, and I think that's the wrong approach.
Were any of them named Dr. Fauci?
No. In the political science department.
I think he's in the political science department, but that's...
So I think it's, do your research and be your own person and come to your conclusions and your thoughts and your value system, and then that's what you can take forward.
What we've noticed with Cpacs, Kevin, is obviously we've traveled all over the seas before the outbreak of the virus, and there's an international audience that really is focused on this movement inside America. For the people that are watching and listening all over the seas, and they're looking at America and they're saying, what's going on? What's your message to them?
Right. Well, I think that I found an article, I sent it to Matt, emailed to him right before we came, and he knows which one I'm talking about, but William F. Buckley was right there at the beginning of this organization. And he wrote an article in National Review where he said, well, what is it? Rub their noses in the Constitution every day. Okay?
Pretty good idea.
But it's a pretty aggressive thing for Buckley to have said. He was a great man, and he said that because, in 1965, we could have been meeting in this room and we could have said, aren't you worried about the future of America? If you look at what the left wants to do, doesn't it scare you? And then we made it this far because people like Buckley built organizations like yours, Matt, and they won the fight between 1965 and today. And so my message for kids and for people in foreign countries that have governments that maybe are looking a little like ours right now is that America's a great country that's been incredibly successful because there have always been people willing to stand up and fight for freedom and for what's right. And it's going to be your turn soon, and you better get ready. Because if you don't, you're going to lose the country.
Thank you both. We're ready, right?
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
There was a time when you could be proud to be an American. When the words "Made in the USA" meant something more than just quality. They were a badge of honor.
Over the past 5 years, ACE has made it its mission to provide American-made promotional products to conservative candidates, organizations, and nonprofits with the highest quality materials made right here in the USA. Due to our success, we have recently expanded our line to offer marketing, digital, and event services. At ACE, we are the
Today, tomorrow, and forever. We're proud to be made in the USA.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Common Values, Common Interests, and Common Culture. How conservative Latinos will influence the future of American politics. Please welcome your panel. From Hidalgo County Republican Party, Adrian Pena Garza. Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation, Rick Figueroa. From Republican National Hispanic Assembly, Betty Gardenias. And your host, from the American Conservative Union Foundation, Mercedes Schlapp.
How's everybody doing so far? I mean, seriously, can Don Jr. just house? Getting better and better. His father should be careful. No, they're such a lovely family, and I have to say it's really great to have Don Jr. and Kimberly really come out and talk about what. And one of the big areas that we're very proud of the work that we did, not only on the Trump campaign, but just in the Republican inroads that we're making with the Latino community. And I have to tell you, I am so blessed to have 3 phenomenal Latino leaders who have been, they're not Latinx, let's get this right, okay? For the record, Latinx is not a word, okay? There is Latino and Latina. And if you want to say gender neutral, just say Hispanic, okay? But this Latinx thing that the Democrats are trying to tell Joe Biden that it's a good idea, it's not, okay? There is an L and an ella. Very simple. Let's not mess with the language, okay? But these leaders have been in the forefront of so many of these fights. They are on the ground here in Texas and also nationally to share the message of freedom, hope, and opportunity. So let's get started. Betty, you're chairwoman of the Republican National Hispanic Assembly, and actually your son is a superstar who started a group called Bienvenidos. Tell us about the work that you all are doing to reach out, and what message are you sharing with the Latino community to bring them on board to the conservative movement?
Well, first of all, Mercy, thank you for inviting us to be here. I'm so excited to be here in Cpac, and I think the message is exactly what Latinos are, the stories, what we come, our history. Abraham has started Bienvenido, and alongside with RNHA, it's so important to understand that all aspects of life here in the United States are Hispanics issues. We care about business, we care about politics, we care about sports, we care about education, because we are America. It represents us, and that's so important for us as Hispanics to get involved. There's more than 60 million Latinos in this country. And yes, there's more than 60 million, and there's 78% of them are United States citizens. President Trump was able to take 38% of that vote, of the Latino vote, surpassing the numbers of Bush 2000, Bush 2000, Mitt Romney, and McCain.
Mitt Romney.
Yes.
What do we think about Mitt? Okay, sorry. Keep going.
But we resonated. His policies resonated with the Hispanic community, and we're done with the pandering. We're past that. We don't want fake politicians that come and lie to us and just come every election cycles. We're holding them accountable. President Trump promised something, and he kept his promises, and we saw the results.
So Rick and I were in the trenches in 2016, and he is not only a member of the Hispanic Advisory Board for President Trump, but also an NRA board member. So, you know, I know people won't associate necessarily the Second Amendment with Hispanic outreach, but there's something there that's important, which is freedom being the big topic. Talk to us about why it's important, not only to protect our Second Amendment rights, but our freedoms in general.
Well, thanks. I don't know who did this lineup, but I'm the thorn among the roses here. I mean, I'm not sure who played this. We're going to talk about that later. But I would tell you that the concept is this, right? People say, why are you on the NRA board? What is it about the Second Amendment that you love? I said, it's my love for the first that drives me to the second. It's my love for the first that drives me to the second. And if you don't believe me, all you have to do is think about a few months. They were stationing police officers at toilet paper aisles in grocery stores. Cities were being claimed autonomous zones. I mean, we are this close from anything snapping, and the people's ability to protect themselves when 911 doesn't work is important. But beyond that, the concept of being able to hunt, being able to teach your kids to be able to appreciate the gifts from God of the land, and those are fundamental basic principles as an awakening and that people don't appreciate. And so I think that the best example I can give you is I told the NRA board when I first came on board, I said, you know, I'm from Texas, and I tell you, when I go hunting from August or September, Labor Day, all the way to January, I can't throw a rock without hitting a Hispanic with a gun, right, in South Texas, right? By the way, don't throw a rock at a Hispanic with a gun. Just it's not a smart thing to do. I told that joke earlier, so I thought it would. But I would go up to him and simply say, look, you see that sidearm you had there? You see that little 9mm? If you were in California and New Jersey, you couldn't take it. And they look at me shocked. And they go, what are you talking about? I said, that sidearm, couldn't carry it in Jersey. And so the math starts playing off in their heads, and they see the encroachment of their freedom, and they awaken to that. And we, of all generations who've ever lived in this country, have been given the opportunity to see it blatantly in front of us these last few months, and how quickly the encroachment can be. Amendment protects that, right? If they're going to come knock on your door to check your vaccine, they're going to come knock on your door to check your weapons. You know that, and so we got to be ready for that. And the stakeholders that should be awakened, the giant, if you will, is the Hispanic community. They know very much God and protecting your family is critical. It's in our DNA, and so it's just impressive.
And if Dr. Fauci's knocking on your door, don't open it, okay? But, you know, Rick brings up a great point, which is in these Latin American countries, one of the first things they do when a dictatorship goes into power is they confiscate the guns. It's what Fidel Castro did back in the early 60s when he told the Cubans, we're going to need to take your guns because there's this great foreign threat called the United States. Venezuela did the same exact thing. And so you see that their goal is to control the people. And one of the first things they do is take away the guns. Now let me turn to you, Adrian. You're chairwoman of the Hidalgo County Republican Party, which is fantastic. You're on the border, very close to the border. You've had about immigration, right? The Democrats. What are you seeing at the border, and why should we all care and know that this is an issue that needs to be dealt with and that Latinos need to be speaking up against this border crisis?
Well, Latinos on the border, many of them are Border Patrol agents, and our borders, our nation borders, is important to everybody. We do need to be a nation of laws, and the Hispanics in our community understand that. You know, rule of law is something that is taught in our family. We want to do things the right way, the legal way, and I think that's something very unique in South Texas is we back the green unapologetically, we back the blue unapologetically, and we've been sending a message in our communities, in the barrios, sharing that just because you're brown, just because you're a female does not mean you have to be Democrat. Just because you're Hispanic, you know, we are free, this is a free nation, and you should be able to vote for whoever you choose.
Now, Betty, we've seen in this last campaign that we have made inroads. You talked about the 38% of Hispanics supporting President Trump, despite the fact that the liberal media and everybody else said that no Hispanics should vote for Trump. In fact, there was this former Hillary Clinton spokesperson, you can boo anytime. Thank you, on cue. And she came out and she was so stressed out that Trump did so well with the Hispanics that she says that there's this quote unquote cultural identity crisis. Do you think Latinos are having a cultural identity crisis?
No, absolutely not. We are waking up. I think the Latinos are finally waking up. We're going to the booths, and it's time for us to take back our cities. So something that's so important, and I think we can think about national, but we don't need to go that far. It starts with our local cities. It starts taking back our cities. There's something so important for the Latinos. On the top list, education and economy are very important. And so when it comes to education, seeing our schools, I think that's what we're seeing. The Latinos are seeing our schools, that what they're educating our kids are not our values. I mean, the same education that I had is not what our children are getting now. Their social studies has completely been discontinued. And now they have just came and they put some other programs that are completely against our values. And it's teaching our kids more on sexuality, on how to have sexual encounters as young as elementary. And so the only way we can make a difference, and the only thing I've always told all of our board is, when it comes to elections in your city, make sure that you go and vote. It's time for us to take back our city councils. It's time for us to take back our mayor. It's time for us to be involved in the board, in the school boards. The only way we can get our nation back is going to be through our cities. And that's what Latinos, they know they can get involved now. They know they can flip some areas, and that's what we're doing. And I also don't want to undermine the of Adrian and our GOP local counties that have gone out to the community. They're reaching out to the community, and also the candidates. If there's a 2020 candidates here that ran, they had a lot to stand up. You had a lot to do. You had a lot to do with constituencies for people to go and vote Republican. They had a lot to do. Put a good leader in front of the Latino community, and they're going to go and vote for them.
Don't you love these people? I just love them. I love them. Rick, we were talking backstage about metrics. And we're thinking, if we're able to show the progress we've made, that it's actually working. I mean, for too long, Republicans have been scared of going into these minority communities. I mean, really, they've struggled. They're like, I don't really know how to take the message to the Latino community. I can tell you, for President Trump, and I was on the campaign, and during my time at the White House, it was a priority to reach out to the Latino community, the Black community, the Asian community, and take this pro-America first message directly to them. So walk us through what metrics you're seeing that we are making inroads. And I'm going to say we're not where we need to be, but we are going in the right direction.
So metrics one of the most powerful weapons is confusion. In politics, confusion is like the biggest weapon. And a lot of people, like Reagan used to quote, Hispanics are Republicans, they just don't know it. Remember that? Reagan was wrong. Republicans are Hispanic, they don't know it. That's important for you to understand. And that, but let me explain that in the nuances, right? There's a difference when I say, Mercedes, you're like me, versus I'm like you. Yeah. Two different sentences, two different approaches, and we have to approach things not from trying to compartmentalize people into a box called Republican. We have to awaken them to what they believe. I grew up youngest of 8, took 8 times for my mother to get it right, but she got it right at the 8th time, and she had 7 rules, and I tell these rules to everybody, right? And there's 7 rules, and they're get your butt out of bed and go to work, right? Yes. Don't expect anybody to help you. You help others when you can. You pray every day. Yes. You find a good woman and you marry her. You marry her. She said it twice. You have godly kids and you honor God in everything you do. That's it. That's it. There were no other And so the metrics that we talk about is my mother, who is 93 years old, first-generation immigrant from Mexico, wasn't trying to turn me into a Republican. She was trying to get me to survive this world, a boy into a man. And those principles are true, and they will always be true 200 years from now. The metrics are truth. We have to stick to truth. We can't hide in policy and verbiage, political verbiage. We have to stick to truth. And I would argue those 7 principles could be associated with any Democrat mother. Yes. Right? They can be in sex with any mother whatsoever based on that. And that identity is important. But the metrics are this, right? One, I think it's important that we speak the language to the people. I'm like you. You're not like me. I'm like you. Second metrics is the face. We used to, in business, right, if somebody who was a 50-year-old white guy was my salesman and the guy who was buying my product was a 50-year-old white guy, they sell all day long. Well, guess what? The buyers have changed. Right? So this guy might not be the best sales guy. The face that the party puts out, us being on the stage, this lady being out there, this lady being out, that face they can do so much more than the old guards. They can do so much more, so the face has to be different. I think the third metric is we have to hold ourselves accountable. We can't expect Washington, the Republican Party, to change our culture or to awaken our culture. We have to do it. We have to own our own awakening. We have to be that. We can't depend on anybody. It is us and the efforts that we do. If it doesn't happen, it's our fault. And on our watch, I'll take that responsibility all day long.
I think our panel is getting more applauses than Matt Schlapp's panel, but don't tell him. Shh, it'll be our secret, okay?
Stephen prettier.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, Adrian, so again, we talked about you're down at the border. We just had a Republican mayor win in that area, which is huge. What do you think are the messages that are working, and how can we make sure that we not only court Hispanic vote, but keep the Hispanic vote in the long run?
Well, one of the things that we do with our Hidalgo County GOP is we have different team members, and each team member represents a different part of our community. There's Libertarian Republicans, there's Tea Party Republicans, there's Hispanic Republicans, and in our area we haven't won an actual race in 100 years. And so in order to do that, we have to collaborate and work together. And so as chair, they don't really make me feel like I'm the Hispanic chair. I'm the GOP chair. This is America, this is Texas, and in order to win, we have to work together. And I think people are just tired of being told who they have to be. And there is freedom in our vote, and each candidate is your decision. Your vote is your voice, and I think we all need to embrace that.
I mean, these answers are getting better and better. I want to quote them all and write them all down. But, you know, I think one of the things that we're looking at also is how Hispanics, you know, this is a thing. Like, I'm Cuban American, so I grew up in Miami. And then we have, obviously, the Venezolanos, the Mexican Americans, the Salvadorians, the Guatemalans. It is a huge mix of Hispanics, and it's not monolithic in any sort of way. So obviously, being here in Texas, there's a lot of Mexican Americans. How is the message resonating with them?
Well, it resonates. Actually, Mexican Americans resonate very much with the policies of President Trump and also with the conservative values. They are very much about economy. They care about their pockets. They care about working and their jobs. They're not here for handouts. But also nationally, I traveled across the country and I learned several cultures that I didn't even know. You know, like I learned how to eat croquetas, ropa vieja in Miami, and it's different from Arizona, where it's pollo asado, and here in Texas you have taquitos and carne guisada.
You're making me hungry, Betty. It's close to dinner time.
And so Latinos, we can't be put in a box where we're monolithic. We're not. We come from all areas. El Salvador, you just mentioned a few. There's so many, and there's so much potential, but all of them, they connect in something, which is faith. we're still the leading group in faith. And also family, we believe in family. Family values are very important for us, and we are very patriotic. We believe in this country because it opened its arms to us, and we're very thankful for that.
I was able to attend a Hispanic luncheon earlier with faith leaders and business leaders, and one of the things I mentioned to them, I said, let me explain something to you. The Russians and the Chinese, they're looking at America and laughing at us because the Democrats and the left have successfully tried to divide us by groups, by ethnic groups, by racial groups, by gender, because they really believe that we all need to be put in a box. And let me tell you something, Latinos don't want to be put in a box. We are Americans, and we are Americans first. And yes, we love our culture, but we share so much commonality with, you know, my gringo husband, you know? He doesn't like when I talk in Spanish a lot because he thinks I'm talking about him, which I probably am. But we get to what we love about America is the appreciation of all these different cultures coming together to make America an even better and greater and fabulous place, whether you're Italian or Polish or Jewish. There you go. The Polish people who understand what it is to lose their country and be under communist and dictatorship rule and fight for freedom. And I think the message of freedom really resonated in this campaign across the board to all Hispanics. So Rick, will Beto O'Rourke be the next governor of Texas?
I've got a one-legged dog more useful than Beto O'Rourke, I'll tell you that right now. The hell he'll be a next governor. Over my dead body, that'll be the case. But you know, it's funny people talk about Beto, and look, for whatever he is, if I want to be lectured by a frat boy, I'll go to UT or A&M. I don't need to be. But the idea of what Beto was trying to do, that reality, that connectivity, that Whataburger and the ketchup stain on his shirt, and all those little. Onto something in a sense that he was trying. What I want to do is I want to connect on principles, right? Not a reality show. Reality shows are not a way to connect with people. It is a principle based. It goes back to those 7 rules, but it's a heart transformation. This is what astounds me. In all of history, I'm a believer, right? And God is God, right? And he knows who he is, and right? So if we know anything about God, we know he's all-knowing. And if he's all-knowing, he put us at the most consequential time in the history of mankind. Can you believe that, right? Now, I know some of you people in the audience, I wouldn't have picked you, but he did. He did. I know some of you guys, I wouldn't have picked you. I wouldn't have picked me. But the God who knows everything, the God who's all-knowing, all-encompassing, chose us at the most consequential time in mankind's history. We have to own and answer that call, and I'm going to be right there with you, and we're ready for that call.
You know, Adrian, I think one of my biggest concerns right now is that I don't see that there's a lot of common ground with Democrats. I think, you know, they really try to censor conservatives. The left, the loudest voices are the most radical in the party. Is there any room for Republicans and conservatives to work with Democrats today? Okay, we got an answer over. Oh, wait, Louis Gomer's here. That's what it is. Was it Louis? Oh, what's your name? Monique. Monique, stand up. There you go. Monique says no way. Louis, I thought it was you.
So I believe that informing the community, people will walk away. My father was a state representative Democrat for 10 years, and he did walk away. I was a Democrat, and I stand before you a strong Republican, unapologetic at that. And so there is hope for our state, and the further left they go, the more we will win.
Yes. Okay, so to wrap up, I know we're having so much fun, but we have to get off the stage at some point. So let's just do a quick round robin. Just your final words. What advice you can give us here at Cpac on how we can best continue to build these relationships with the Latino community?
Well, I believe it starts with this. Like coming to conferences like Cpac and taking it back to your community and getting involved, and also teaching and educating the community with speakers that Cpac brings. They bring amazing speakers, and learning and getting involved in your local elections. Once again, I repeat that getting involved in local elections is so imperative for this country, for us to take this country back. So that I leave it with, I love America. I thank America for opening its arms to us, for allowing us to be in this country. Thank you so much. And I just encourage everyone to participate in saving America.
Beautiful. Rick?
I'm more of a boot in your butt kind of guy. I'm just get out there and do something. I mean, there are county chairs dying for people, for volunteers. There are organizations dying for members. Get out there. The governor appoints over 3,000 appointees. Get people, draw people in, go to them. It is a big difference between when you ask somebody to come somewhere versus where you go somewhere. It is imperative that we connect with people where they are at. That's what, who's that guy? Oh yeah, Jesus. He did that. That's what he did. Yeah, that's who that guy was. Go to the people and you will be astonished that how the trip itself, the journey to get to them, will open a door that you never knew existed. I promise you that. So go do something. I'm not sure what it is, but you're called to do it, and God does not make mistakes. You're here for a purpose. He does not make mistakes, I promise you.
Adrian.
Well, and my advice to Hispanics, right, is sometimes we can get frustrated with the way things can be. Instead of complaining that I don't have a seat at the table, earn the seat at the table. Earn the trust from the GOP, from the young Republicans, from the college Republicans. Become a precinct chair, become an election judge. Hold your elected officials accountable. They are not kings. They owe us respect. We are the grassroots. Get involved. We need you. Our country is at stake.
Well, that wraps up this panel. Let me tell you something. We have made panels great again because of these great panelists. So thank you all for joining us.
Ladies and gentlemen, please, State of Williams.
It's an honor to be here. Do you think, like I do, that America is the greatest country in the world? I think so, right? And for those of us in Texas, we think Texas is the greatest state in America. Well, if America is the world and Texas the greatest state in America, then Texas must be the best place in the world to live, to grow up, raise a family. And I'm not so sure that the best place to be right now in Texas is right here at Cpac. So I am Roger Williams, as I represent you in the Christian conservative, pro-life, Second Amendment, grassroots taxpayer, just like all of you. We got a pretty simple platform in my office. It's lower taxes, less government, cut spending, defend borders, listen to your generals, understand the 10th Amendment, and always stay with Israel. Pretty simple. Now, I might say we've added two more. Number one is stay with Israel. We never get out of that box. And, you know, I think when people like myself come and they talk to you, it's important you know how they make decisions. We make a lot of decisions in Washington. And we make decisions in my office on fairness, family values, limited government, against lower tax. In the foul lines, we have several things that keep us there, and we don't get away from them. Number one, it's what the Constitution says. See, I believe, like you do, the Constitution is what it is. It's not living and breathing like Nancy Pelosi wants to tell us. That doesn't exist. What does the Constitution say? And then do it. Pretty simple. So, and we say, what's the Constitution say? And we listen to our base. What does our base say? What are you all telling us? And between the Constitution and the base and the third thing is my conscience, our conscience. You know, in Washington, we have a tendency to make two kinds of votes and two votes only. We can make a vote to save our political future. Importantly, personally, I read the Bible every day. And you know what? The Bible will tell you how to be a congressman. And the Bible will tell you how to live our lives. So I saw in the Dallas paper the day it said I'd made almost 7,000 votes since I've been in Congress. That's a lot of votes. That surprised me. And I got thinking about those votes and how we made them. Constitution, our base, right? Reading the Bible. Conscience. And I can tell you unequivocally, out of those 7,000 votes, I have not made one vote yet that I regret. And we're going to keep it that way. So, with all that being said, let me tell you, when I came to Congress back in 2012, I'm not an artist, but I want a painting made that would inspire me. So I found an artist that said, make this painting, here's what I want in it, and so forth. I want George Washington, I want Valley Forge, I want Ephesians, you get the picture. Something I can look at every day and inspire me. Well, when you come to my office, and many of you have been there, you've seen this beautiful Ephesians, you get the picture, something I can look at every day and inspire me. Well, when you come to my office, and many of you have been, as Kamala Harris been, the border czar, right? Well, she came to the border, and some of us that live in Texas know she ran the wrong border. She went to El Paso. She didn't go down to the Rio Grande Valley. It took her 93 days to get down there, and our president hadn't gone down there yet. So we got a czar. I hate that. We got a border czar said that ISIS is like the KKK, and that she supports defunding law enforcement. Border. It's a fight right there, isn't it? That's enough to make us understand. Election You know, Joe Biden, in case you haven't heard, wants to take your guns. Nancy Pelosi wants to take, and you know, I want you to own a gun. I want you to own the gun. And we do it legally. We need more. That's right, Cheryl. Of our lifetime, and we talk about. So let's go out, and when we leave this this wonderful facility and this wonderful meeting, let's go out and let's be the next world's greatest generation. Okay, we can do it. So may God bless all of you. Remind this in closing. The book of John says, you catch more fish from the right side of the boat than you do the left. Let's go out and get them. May God bless all of you. God bless Texas, and God bless America. Thank you.
Plot to change America. We need to overthrow the capitalist system, change it radically.
By the time that I joined Antifa, I was already preconditioned to believe that America was my enemy.
The average Venezuelan has lost 24 pounds due to starvation.
People say that socialism has never been tried. It has been tried.
Leaders who social justice.
Being told that they can't because of the color of their skin, being told that they can't because of their gender. They're safe in marketing these ideas to children.
These were kids from kindergarten through 5th, 6th grade. Pictures of Donald Trump with swastikas.
One of the biggest economies here in California take care of illegal immigrants, but our people are sleeping on the streets.
The public square is inundated with lies and with propaganda.
My roommate that I had in college, she said, oh, I'm a communist. 70% would vote for socialist.
Would you choose socialism? Yeah, I would choose it for sure.
They demonize capitalism while they're drinking their Starbucks.
The so-called Democratic Party does not have room for independent thinking black Americans like me.
Today, we truly embark on an agenda of economic, social, and racial justice in the United States of America.
We need a revolution in order to overthrow this system. One day live in a nation will not be judged by the
Veritas.
Great to be with you. Great to be with you. Hello, everyone. It's great to be with you. Well, brave. Years at Providence. And one of my favorite books, before I get started, 1984, the year I was born, George Orwell. And the media tease for you about coming next, so we'll get to that. Project Veritas has been banned on after on Twitter, every single one of the stories that we have done has trended on Twitter, even though we've been banned. So they haven't been able to Jack Dorsey tried to cut us off the knees. He failed. And we continue with CNN tapes. So people ask, what can I do? How can I? We want to help answer that question for you, and we have some examples of some people who have amazing things, including this Morgan Common from Facebook, brave insider whistleblower. He documents to Project Veritas confirming what we all know to be true, the vaccine hesitancy or the virus. It'll prevent you from even if what you're saying is true. That's the shocking thing. Facebook actually says working for Facebook found this so shocking he decided to come to Project Veritas and blow the whistle. And I think we have a video of him sitting down with us.
Scale to Twitter and the internet as a whole is way worse than anything that could happen from me getting fired from my job. To me, that it far outweighs that, because it's more than me. It's about really everyone in the world.
It's almost like you're saying that your desire to follow your conscience outweighs any potential risk there might be to you from doing this.
Yes. I have 2 kids. I have, my wife, and if I lose my job, it's like, what do I do? But that's less of a concern to me.
So Morgan could not be here right now because he's having a baby with his wife, but he did make a video here. I'm going to show for Cpac. He filmed himself, and we're going to play.
There were other conventions before then. So hope you guys have a good time, and just want to let you know that you should stay tuned.
$. Sending a message to these big tech companies that there is a silent majority of people out there who will have their backs, a grassroots movement of people. And that's just the first one. A quick story about one of the first whistleblowers. You remember him, Eric Cochran, insider whistleblower. He came to us showing that the company type in the word on the search autofill, and you would have been a conspiracy theorist had not Eric given us the actual code showing they had assigned a severity level to a Bible verse. This was in the software. He also showed that they were labeling pro-life organizations and economics websites like Zero Hedge as pornography. This was what Pinterest was doing. And Eric came to Project Veritas. He's currently our director of whistleblowing. This is what Eric had to say.
To me, there's no other option. I could go through life and I could live in the comforts of life, then I'll just fall to ashes. No matter what I lose, it'll mean something after I'm gone.
And Eric Cochran is
the lives of the insiders that you'll see today all changed so much after they blew the whistle. And all of them can attest to the fact that their lives are improved. Their consciences are clear. Let's know that corruption in America is getting much worse. The good news is that Project Veritas is getting so much bigger, and our sources are getting so much bolder. If you're on the inside of a corrupt institution, come talk to us today or send us an email at veritastips@protonmail.com.
Thank you, Eric. Eric Cochran. Find this man, talk to him. He will not ask anyone to do what Fairness sounds like science fiction. No, this is an actually private document within Google where they're saying even if you can't read it, it's on the it's factually accurate, it is algorithmically unfair, and we'll censor it. And this is Zach Voorhees within Google leaking up PowerPoint and showing what the company's doing. I asked him, what compelled you to lose your job for the public right to know? And this is what Zach had.
Explaining what I was doing, this is an act of atonement, okay, to make my conscience clear.
And Zach is here. Come on out, Zach.
James.
Google whistleblower.
You're too kind. You know, Google that they would be politically neutral. When the wrong president got democratically elected, they threw all of that away in order to bring a communist, totalitarian regime, Trojan system. And you know what? They would have gone away with it if it were not for James O'Keefe and the brave employees of Project Veritas.
Whistleblower. Pretty inspirational. Every time one of these guys comes forward, come to Project Veritas, and we have the next one. Facebook whistleblower. Let's see. This person. It doesn't happen, but their own employees say it does happen when they're in a few of these Facebook people, and you can hear one of the contributors admitting they shadow ban.
Facebook, yeah.
Rightfully so. They lie before Congress and say they don't do what they're doing. Solve the problems. We'll solve. My name is Ryan. Ryan, come on out here.
Hey, Cpac, my name is Ryan Hartwig, and I worked at Facebook for 2 years. I filmed with the hidden camera for about 9 months, and I exposed Facebook's censorship regime. They censor political speech. I want to thank Project Veritas and James O'Keefe. We need to keep fighting against big tech. Big tech needs to be held accountable, and we're going to do our part as brave Americans. Thank you.
Thank you.